Hello and welcome to the On the Whistle podcast. I'm your host, Alasdair Howorth, and today we have one of the hottest young prospects in African football speaking to me today. Zayn Nabbi, how are you? How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm so glad I'm not hosting because I get to eat biltong, listen, bring my punditry. I'm filled up with some nice Coca-Cola because it's quite warm. Life is good. And I'm so happy we have this amazing guest to sit around our braai.
Yeah, Zayn is not used to being the guy who's not in the hot seat, the host. So he's out here taking it easy, have drinking, eating, whatever else. But our real guest, our real guest today that we're so excited to have him, born in Kasulu, raised in Yaragusu, and made in Abilene, Texas. The latest in a growing list of African stars lighting up the MLS. It is Tanzania and Dallas FC's very own. Remember the name, Bernard Kamungo. Bernard, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Thank you for having me here. Let's have fun.
We're excited to have you. I mean, Bernard, my first question I got to ask, we're interviewing you at Tanzania in less than a week after Tanzania just qualified for their third Africa Cup of Nations, I believe, their first in a number of years, since 2019 when Kenya beat them. Michael Olunga grabbing a brace.
Declare an interest. Declare an
You didn't have to say that.
But Bernard, were you watching the game? How are you feeling? What was it like to kind of be someone whose nation is actually going to be going to the African Cup of Nations in January?
Oh yeah, I was watching the game, just watching the game, seeing how the guys are making the history was a big push for me as well. Just to want to be part of it and just kind of help the team, help the whole national team just go even far. And I was just so happy, to see where, the boys got us right now, making it to AFCON, for the third time in the history. So it was an incredible good feeling for me and, for the whole national.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, be honest with me, Bernard. How nervous were you? Because let me put it out for the listeners and the viewers. Tanzania went into the final group game of qualifiers away at Algeria. Algeria, I think, was the only team who had won, not just drawn, but won every single qualifying match so far. Tanzania needed to get a draw or at least match Uganda's result. Uganda needed to win by 2 goals against Niger. Lo and behold, the Uganda were winning 2-0 against Niger. So Tanzania, if they conceded 1 goal, that was it. The AFCON dream was over. Be honest with me. What were the emotions like?
I mean, for me, it was kind of stressful because I can get to see, how the other team is doing, and I'm looking where my team is at, and I was like, oh my God, this is very tough. It got tougher when I seen that, the other team beating Uganda 2-0, and I was like, this is not even, it was getting worse every single time. So, it was, a little bit stressful, but, not the same as the guys that were playing there for sure, because I know they struggle a lot, push a lot just to get the team to where it needs to be. And then I'm just so proud of every one of them for such a big step and, just taking the responsibility and just take the team even far.
The reason why this is so complicated for you, Bernard, is because you have, forgive me for saying, but such a fascinating and interesting backstory in terms of where you grew up, how you were raised in Tanzania. Do you want to tell us a bit about kind of what life was like for you as a young kid and a bit more about your background?
Oh yeah, for me, obviously, I was born in a refugee camp, actually, in Yaragusu camp. That's where I was raised till I was like, 14, I think so, 14, 13. So, and then, just living a life there, it's, everybody know living in a refugee camp is not an easy life. You barely get food and you barely, get stuff to do out there. It's more like you feel like it's in jail, even though you have a little bit of space to do, something. But you kind of get tucked up and there's not enough opportunity to kind of showcase your talent or, just even work for our parents is so hard for them to find something to do. So, for me, I only had one job to go to school, and which I did try to go to school for a couple, for a few years. And whenever I turned like 11, if I'm not mistaken, 11, 11 or 10, 11, I just, I seen how, my parents were struggling to just make money and just try to feed us every single day. Because sometimes I'll go to school, come back, I'll not have food. And, you can't really complain because we just kind of get used to the life. of not getting food sometimes. So my expectations, just me knowing that sometimes I won't get food, I was like very disappointed. Even though as a kid, you want to get almost everything that you're asking your parents for. But I guess I was kind of mature enough at that time. I kind of realized that my parents had gone through a tough time to find us, try to feed us and all that. And I seen the opportunity of me helping my family, like getting food or like just getting some amount of money to kind of help them to get us food. So I started, try to do like a little job, try to help out selling stuff so I can just, help my family and, my siblings as well.
Yeah, and I kind of wanted to kind of know, for you reflecting back on that, you talking about how as a kid you became quite mature quite early because of that. You know, has that kind of the way you view life and your parents and the way you relate to your family been significantly different because of the way you grew up? And even now that you guys are in the US and stuff, how does that kind of impact the way you yourself, but also your family kind of live your life even to this day now?
I mean, obviously, I'm always thankful to see, to where I came from and where I'm at right now. And then I think, just having that mindset, knowing that, I struggle a lot and I never had opportunity to actually express what I'm feeling inside or just try to tell people how it is living my, the type of life I lived in. It was quite kind of struggle, but now that I have opportunity to kind of tell people what I went through and what I don't want everybody to go through that tough life. I think it's a good mindset. It actually just helped me out, like mental wise. Just try to look back and see that back then the life was this bad, and then to where I'm at right now, I shouldn't just give up. I shouldn't just say settle for what I have right now. Just keep fighting for more. Just keep battling, and hopefully I can get even more than this and help people back home.
I have to come in and just say that your story is one of inspiration. It's one of triumph, but there was obviously a lot of pain in what you've gone through. And listening to some of what you say reminds me of the story of Michael Azira, the former Ugandan international who played in the MLS, who also, when he was young, had very humble beginnings and had to go and try help the family sell items or food so that he could make some money to help. I'm wondering, when you were going through those tough times, what were some of the good things? What were some of your most treasured times and memories when you were growing up? Was it the hope that you get out of the refugee camp, or was there some form of escape for you in that environment? And what would that have been?
I mean, actually, I think I would say I was enjoying myself, even though I wasn't getting everything I wanted to. I was, I kind of get used to the life, to not getting food, not, I was just, I guess, not comfortable, but I was just, I felt like that was the living. There's no need of stressing myself, overthinking, going, I want to be this place. Obviously, you want to have food, you want to get almost everything that you need in life, but it doesn't happen like that. So for me, it was more like every time I get food, I feel blessed. I'm like, okay, this is all I was asking for. And I was just so happy just getting that food or getting something that maybe I was needing for too long. So that's why when I came to US, one of the things that I actually, like realize is, you get almost all 3 meals you need. It's all up to you if you want to eat or not. So it was, that's something that I would never forget, personal. It was a big change for me and a really good change.
That's perfect, because my next question was going to be, when you got to West Texas, what were your first impressions?
I'm telling you, they showed me the fridge, full of food, and I was like, "Oh my God, please stop it!" I was like, "Hey, no way!" It was a really good feeling. And then I think somebody actually came and said they had this thing they call food stamp, so we can go to the store and buy whatever we want with
Mm.
our card. And I was like, "Oh my God, this is a lot," because all I was thinking about was just food. I'm like, "This ain't no way I'm getting all this." Because it was just I guess life changing after that.
Yeah, and kind of in those first years, Bruno, obviously, I assume, you kind of, when you move there, you're 14, you go into kind of a high school or kind of secondary school. you know, I cannot think of a bigger culture shock and difference from kind of going from kind of rural Tanzania to, I guess, still rural US, but to Texas, and everything that I think about Texas and the stereotype, blah, blah, blah. What were those first few years like? I mean, for instance, like how was your English? What was school like? Tell us about those first couple of years of school.
Yeah, I mean, everything was just shocking, to be honest, So I remember because they took me to the middle school. So I got into middle school, and then we had breaks. I never knew we'd get break and have, like meal, during the break. So we had meal, and I was like, "Oh, this is good." I didn't think we were gonna have food out because I have enough food at home, and then we getting food at school. I was like, "Okay, this is good." But the type of food we were getting burgers and all that, and then I never had that. So it was, I tried it a couple times, and I never liked it. So sometimes,
wait, you didn't like a hamburger, the most American thing in the world.
I never liked it. So I used to like fries, and I'm just eat fries. And so sometimes I just starve myself until I get home, and my mom will make me. So it was kind of strange seeing where I came from. I never had food. Now I have food, and I'm not eating it. It was like like a different type of feeling. So it was a really good different type of feeling because from not having something to have something that at least you have a decision to make and say, okay, I'm not gonna eat this time. I'm gonna eat at this time. I'm not gonna eat this food. I'm gonna eat this food. So I kind of have a choice to make, and then it was it was a really good experience. Even I got here, I never spoke English. I was I used to learn French in Nyarugusi camp. So we got here. All I knew was Swahili and French. I mean, a little bit of French. I can't say I used to speak French like that,
Sure.
but just a little bit of French. And I started learning English, and look at me now. I'm speaking to all of you guys in English.
You speak English so good. You speak American, and I speak South African, and he speaks Kenyan. So
No.
you confuse me like my wife is from Chicago. I'm joking. I'm joking. You're perfect. Sorry, Elliot.
Yeah, I gotta say, I can't imagine there being too many Swahili speakers out in West Texas. But yeah, I mean that is incredible. I've read through this whole time, both kind of growing up in Tanzania as well as then when you got to America. What role did kind of football play in your life? In particularly in that transition from going from Tanzania to the US.
So football kind of helped me to communicate because I grew up like a shy person, because every time, sometimes you go and beg for stuff, back in the refugee camp. Sometimes you need something and then you can't afford it. So the only way to get it, you have to be like humble, you have to be quiet, and then just so people would probably like you and say, okay, you can have these. So I guess I was that type of person from the young age, just growing up, very young and, not talking to a lot of people, I guess. But so football actually helped me communicate with my teammates, and then it helps me even speak a little bit of English as well, because, you have to talk to your teammates to do certain things. And my teammates had to teach me a few words to actually, just speak in English. And then that pushed me a little bit more, in the middle school, even when I got to high school as well.
Yeah, I mean, I remember growing up in school, there was distinct memories of, the school I went to was an international school. And so some people would come and not be able to speak any English. But the one place where they could speak English would be on the football pitch. Someone say, "Pass me ball." Like they wouldn't know any school English, wouldn't know how to say, "Hello, my name is whatever," but cross, pass, whip it in, kind of anything, put cross to my head. Yeah, they're done there. Football is a universal language. And then, so Berta, how does this work? Because you've also kind of got this really interesting kind of aspect where when I think of the US and US sports, I think college ball, I think the draft, I think kind of these things, but you didn't do any of that. How did you make that step from kind of playing high school ball to stepping into suddenly playing kind of semi-professional, professional football?
Oh yeah, this is where my brother comes. My brother was always, telling me all the time, you go to try out, find some tryout, and just try to do something. But I was always nervous, shy, like always. I never believed in myself. So most of the time I would just lie to him, tell him on the phone, okay, brother, I'll find some and I'll go to him. But I never went to any of them. So he kind of made that decision to come back to Texas because he used to stay in Michigan. He came back to Texas. He looked at, two tryouts. And he was like, there's a 500 one and a 90 box one. You get to choose, where do you want to go? I'll take you. Just want you to be, on the field and play. So, because I'm very cheap, I chose the 90 bucks one. I was like, I think a 90 bucks is
a man after my own heart.
Yeah, I was like, 90 bucks for sure. I didn't even think twice. So I just, we got registered for the 90 bucks. We got the tryout, and I was a little bit scared because of seeing how tall people are. I seen how big they are, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm not making it. In my head, everything was just playing in my head. I never told my brother. So I got to a tryout, and then my brother just told me, hey, just play, be yourself, There's nothing else, no pressure, just be you. So I got on the field. I started playing, just scrimmaging, because it was like 11 against 11 most of the time. We started scrimmaging, and, coaches started talking to me, and, that's where everything started.
I have to ask you, Bernard, and you've touched on this already, perhaps. Who's been the most significant person on your footballing journey?
Zayn, let me tell you, I'll answer for him. This guy's brother moved from Michigan to Texas just to get this guy to go on a tryout. There's only one answer. I'm sorry, I will get answer for you. Please go.
Thank you so much. Yeah, he's a man.
But I'll let me tell you, my older brothers would never ever do that to me. That's all I'm saying. Never ever. You're blessed. You're blessed.
Well, you've got to send him a message now that you're on the podcast. If he was here right now, what would you say to him?
I love you. I'll pay him back his 90 bucks.
I love it. I was gonna go. You've had such amazing highs in your young career, but I have to ask you about that Leagues Cup match when you scored against Lionel Messi's Inter Miami. What was that like? I've seen the pictures, I've seen the celebrations, but what was it like?
I mean, it was just joy, like you can see the happiness all over my face, all over my body, after just sharing the field with, Lionel Messi. I grew up watching that guy, obviously, just every Saturday, every Sunday, Messi's playing. You will see me there on TV watching. It doesn't matter what time he's playing, Just being able to share the field with him, it was such a big honor, something that, always stay, with me my whole life. And, scoring, against them as well. I mean, what else can you ask for? You playing against Messi, scoring against him. I mean, I was living a dream at that time. Trust me. I couldn't believe it. I scored. I know, I got to the post and I scored, but to me, it was just a shock. I was like, how did I do it? I didn't even know how I did it. It's just, it was incredible. Good feeling. And I guess one of the best games I've ever played so far.
I mean, did you get the chance to speak to him or like interact with him at all after the game?
Surely he gave you his jersey. Surely he gave you his jersey.
I hope so. After you sat down Kabambele like that and scored that goal.
Come on. Tell me you got his jersey.
No, actually.
Now let's be honest. Everyone's trying to get that jersey.
Dude, but what he did in that game, come on.
It was one of my teammates, because, he's Argentinian. They talked already, so I kind of expected him to get a jersey, before everything, because they talked before the game, and even after the game, they know each other somehow, and then I was like, okay, this is really good. But for me, just getting a high, getting a picture against them, with them, it was all I needed. The jersey, I can get it next time, but that time, it was just for the picture. That's it. I got to shake his hand as well.
I mean, be honest, that game, I know you guys got knocked out in the Leagues Cup, but after the game, having scored and met Lionel Messi, like, how upset were you at the loss, even though you got these awesome memories? Be honest. That's the real win.
Oh, what a question. I mean, I knew I won the game, even though we kind of tied up and all that. But for me, I was winning all over the pitch, even off the pitch, So it was actually, not a good feeling that you want to feel, especially if you lose a game. But I guess it was a learning moment for the team as well. Just try to,
Mm,
step it up and not sleep off. Sometimes if you get chances like those, especially if you play against high players like Lionel Messi and all of them. So it was a good learning moment. But for me, like I said, I felt like we won that game even though we didn't get the results we wanted because we outplayed them.
mm,
Yeah. And for you, Bernard, he's kind of been such a meteoric rise, kind of first, playing for what was it, for your school team, and then West Texas, and then now you're kind of getting into the Dallas team, and suddenly you're in the Leagues Cup, you're scoring. You've now played, started a few games in the MLS. You scored in that last game against Atlanta United. That brilliant finish before you got absolutely smacked. How has that been for you? Just kind of, how have you found that experience? Because, less than 2 years ago, you're, not even, anywhere near a professional team. And now you're playing against Lionel Messi. What is that like?
Man, I don't know. I don't know how to tell you, my guy. I'm just like you. Sometimes I get in shock, with the stuff that I do all the time. But to be honest, I feel like I have, good people around me that help me out every single day. On the pitch, on off the pitch. The coaches and stuff, my teammates, and just my family. Those are the people that play in the main character, and that's why you get to see Bernard do all those stuff on game days and stuff.
Absolutely. And the whole kind of Taifa Stars has been a new thing for you, Bernard, because obviously you broke into professional football a year or two ago. You've broken into the Dallas FC team in the MLS, and you tore it up in the League Cup and the MLS. And you got that first kind of call up to join the camp in June of this year. What was that experience like for you as the first time being called up to the national camp? How was it for you? What was your experience like?
I mean, it was a good feeling. It was a good feeling just getting recognized with the national team, getting called up there and share the field with all those guys. It was such an honor just to be there with them and kind of get to experience how it is playing for a national team and see the love, how welcoming people are over there, and then it was a good feeling, a good step in my career as well for me and my family.
you were called up to the national team. You've been in great form in the MLS, but you haven't played yet for Tanzania. What are the reasons behind that?
Well, one of the reasons it's because of the dual citizenship, but I'm sure that the coaches and everybody in the office that working on now and try to make it possible so I can play. So as far as I'm concerned, that's one of the reasons that I know. Maybe there's even more reason. I don't know, but I'm just looking forward to when I'll get to play and actually showcase and experience playing for the national team.
Do you think that opportunity will come before the AFCON, where you'll get a chance to play? Is that what you're hopeful for?
I mean, hopefully, like I said, I'm always ready, ready for the opportunity and just try to grab it with both hands. So I'm just so excited for what's coming, either before or after the AFCON. It's still going to be a big opportunity for me.
Sure. And with your injury, I was going to say, when do you think you'll be back and ready to take to the field?
Because my injury is like 3 to 6 weeks. So, I've got a few more weeks going, but I should be ready in, a couple more weeks and I should be ready because I'm like 2 weeks in, 3 weeks in, yeah.
And I've also got to ask, this has been an amazing journey for you these last 2 years, but also, you mentioned your brother and your family. What has it been like for them as well? Like, have you been able to get your parents out to games and, what has that been like for the rest of your family in terms of supporting you?
Oh yeah, they watch every single game, even though sometimes they're not at the stadium because they stay in Michigan. But other than that, they support me, talk to me every day, and like before the game, I get to talk to them as well, and they just give me all the good luck I need, and it's just such a good thing to see, that relationship that I have with my family, get to talk to them all the time. They don't have to be on the field for me to play as much as I play all the time, or like for my effort to show up every game. I just need to know that, I've got family, I've got people that support me. That's all I needed. But, they've been a couple games, but obviously not as much as I want them to be. But, there'd be a lot of games there to play, and I'm sure they'll make it to all the games.
I was going to ask Bernard, just to bring it back to FC Dallas. You guys are currently in the final series playoffs race. I'm wondering from your perspective, what would you define as success for yourself this season? And what would you define as success for FC Dallas?
Oh, and for me, I'll start FC Dallas first. I feel like, a success is always, taking a step forward from where you are to somewhere, different. So for us, I think just making it a playoff and actually get to compete in a, playoff will be a big step for us as well. And just try to, lift the trophy at the end of the year. That's something that we're looking forward to. And I'm sure, sooner or later it will happen. So for me as well, just being able to just share all these good moments with my teammates, just try to lift something special at the end of the year and, something that we can all remember, always be remembered for. That's something that I'm looking forward to as well.
Bernard Kamungo, thank you so much for joining us. I wanted to try and think of a better way of closing out this segment speaking to you, but the best I could come up with was seeing someone on Twitter who posted a picture of you and said, Tanzania aendelea kuwatesa wazungu ni Bernard Kamungo. For those of you who don't speak Swahili, that is that Tanzanian who's continuing to torture the white people. That's Bernard Kamungo. Bernard Kamungo, thank you so much for joining the podcast.
Oh my God! They didn't have to say it like